Hello, I'm Catherine Sines, the president of the Rotary Club of Hudson. Rotary is a professional organization of a group of men and women who support Rotary International. We also join together by a common interest of service to our Hudson community, and we have a sincere desire to give back. We meet weekly on Wednesdays at Laurel Lake Retirement Community, 200 Laurel Lake Drive, in their dining room. We meet from 7:30 to 8:30 and would like to invite you to join us. For more information about Rotary, go to www.rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the following excerpts from one of our recent meetings and consider joining us on Wednesday morning.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests.
Good morning, Ron.
Welcome to the Hudson Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Hudson.
Something like that.
Our invocation this morning is by Phil Toby.
How about that, Ron?
You didn't forget, I called him.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Heavenly Father, Lord God of heaven and earth, creator of everything in our world, holy is your name. In you we live, move, and have our being. We are your children, the work of your hands. We pray that you be with us as we gather today as Rotarians. Open our eyes to your presence and our ears to your word. Help us as we care for those in need, service above self. In your name we ask it. Blessed, give me a quick one, Ron. Blessed us,
Oh Lord.
bless this food and our liking and us to your service. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
I get mixed up. I gotta get a Jewish one.
We can help you with that.
He says we.
I need a Jewish invocation.
We need to get you on the rotation.
There we go, yeah.
Excuse me. Pledge and four-way test. Dan Williams.
So, basically,
Will you please join
if
me
it's
in the
red,
pledge of
that's
allegiance?
good. And the little pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
will
Build goodwill and better friendships.
and fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Dan. And to lead us in song, Chris Barker.
All right. There's been a request for Take Me Out to the Ball Game today. We're going to get those lyrics up.
got it.
All right, in honor of the Indians home opener. When is it? Tomorrow?
Thursday.
It's not home opener, it's away.
Oh, okay.
Just move it.
Season
Thursday.
opener. Thank you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back. So it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out of the old ball game.
Thank you, Chris. And now our president, Catherine Sines.
And then if someone's at the podium, usually I zoom in to them. Okay, so this isn't about that.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. Happy Easter week. I know it doesn't feel like Easter. I put a poem on everybody's table. If you see it, it's just a happy Easter poem, just to remind you all that we care and that it's Easter time. And Chris is going to introduce our guest. Good morning again, Rotarians. So we have one new guest with us today. Brian Day is here with us, joining us from Philadelphia, and he is Ralph Day's son. So if you could please join so we can give you a nice warm early welcome. Thank you. Mimi, you want to come up and talk about the League of Women Voters. I was going to have Josie do it, but he's eating, so he can come up next. Yeah.
Good morning. I just had a couple of reminders in case people want to make it a little less confusing for voting this spring. This is on behalf of the Hudson League of Women Voters. If you aren't aware of it, there is a website called vote411.org. And if you log in to vote411.org, you can look at all the candidates that you're eligible to vote for by putting in your zip code. And they'll have their biographies, they'll have an announcement or a set of questions and answers with the information that they have put in. And you can therefore prepare for your ballot. And early voting starts on the 10th of April. And election day is May 8th. And this may be the most important primary election in our history.
No.
Vote.
Josie, would you like to come up? Maybe I can move the mic back up for you.
Can you get in all right? Can you get in all right?
Yes.
Get the website working. Seems to be working.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Yeah, it's on there.
Michael Swain, are you here? Please join me.
I'm in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's a good kind of trouble to be in, Mike. The presentation of the Paul Harris Fellow recognition is the Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for a substantial contribution to its humanitarian and educational programs. It's named for our founder, Paul Harris. We move closer to a world of peace and goodwill today as Mike Swain becomes a Paul Harris Fellow. Congratulations to you, Mike. You are one of 22 members of this Rotary Club who have achieved this distinction. 12 of these are Paul Harris Fellows, 8 are Paul Harris Fellows plus 1, another is a Paul Harris Fellow plus 2, and yet another is a Paul Harris Fellow plus 8. Their gifts to the International Foundation's educational and humanitarian programs is a commitment to peace and a better life for people across the world whom these Paul Harris Fellows may never meet. This is truly a selfless action and so wonderfully honoring the Rotary four-way test. Mike, it's because of gifts like yours that the Rotary International Foundation is able to carry out an array of programs that achieve beneficial changes to our world. In becoming a Paul Harris Fellow, Mike joins a remarkable company of Rotarians throughout the world, all recognized for their devotion to the ideal of peace and understanding. It is the goal of Rotarians the world over, and one that Mike shares. All Paul Harris Fellows present here today, please stand to welcome our awardee, Mike, into the fellowship, and all Rotarians, please join me in applauding Mike's efforts to help our Rotary International Foundation achieve its goals. Do your duty.
I was told I had to wait till the end.
I told you that.
Well, it's a little shorter, usually gives the entire history of Paul Harris every time.
So basically, it's a contribution that's on the second page.
Good. Good job.
I'm not sure how they do the other pictures or contributions.
Thank you.
And then it accumulates up to that.
And the gala's coming up, and we all are out there talking to people and handing out our papers and talking. I went to one this week that hasn't been real receptive to giving us gifts, and they have a new manager, and she asked me if I would accept a gift from a cosmetic company, and her dad works for another company, and could she, and I absolutely, so she's gonna call me, I'll be calling you, maybe not for the original one, but she's giving me two other gifts, so that's positive. Gail, would you like to come up and? You come up. Yeah. Now, and Ron, hey, I thought he got dressed up for us. Good morning, Rotarians. Especially those in the back of the room that are mumbling back there. We have a new bad boy table, I think. It's kind of shifted to the rear. Everybody, I'm sure, is making their follow-up calls because those letters went out over a week ago, so the timing is perfect to get on the phone and contact everyone that was on your list. And to tell us about some of the outstanding gifts that have already been donated, Mr. Ron Strobel.
Okay, we've gotten 3 large gifts that'll be in the live auction. Again, this year, Tom and Barb McDonald have donated their Blue Sky cruiser for a afternoon on Lake Erie, refreshments and hors d'oeuvres on board, and then when they dock in the evening, serves a very nice gourmet dinner. So that they've agreed to give again this year. We have my assistant, or the leader, will talk about that one. Dr. John White has graciously donated a complete orthodontic package again this year, either traditional metal or the Invisalign. And he unfortunately is going to be out of town speaking that night, so he won't be there, but his partner and wife will be at our gala. And we have a sporty convertible from Don Sitz again. The make is not decided yet. He'll decide probably in late April whether it'll be a Mustang, Camaro, or Corvette. And it'll depend on his stock at the time. And so in any event, it'll be a convertible. And this is probably 8th or 10th year that Don Sitz has been doing this for us. So those are 3 of the big items that we've got, and an even bigger one.
Coming up, Saddlewood in Breckenridge, Colorado. Once again being donated for a full week, a $7,000 value. And who wouldn't want a ski-in, ski-out townhome? Just for your own recreation, and we have some slides that show the little town as well as the interior of the house itself. Pretty cool. This is donated by Christina and Eric Robner, and this is the 3rd year that they have been so kind as to donate to us. Tina tells me that they have a lot of new furniture in there, and these are the most updated photos that we have on it. I also have, while you're looking at those, if anyone needs another or more, I have several left of the marketing brochures that you can hand to people when you are soliciting them, because this tells everything about the gala. Thank you again to George Schmutz for printing these. George, thank you. And then also, whoopsie, I have some more invitations. If you need any additional invitations, I have just a few left that you can invite people from your sphere of influence to come that evening. And I think that's it, unless you have anything else to add.
Just one thing on the invitations. I use those for people that have come at one time or another and have, for one reason, can't come anymore. But I send them an invitation, and that's one way to get financial contributions, and it works pretty well. almost everybody I send an invitation to that can't attend does a cash donation, so it's a good use of the invitation.
Dan?
Can you get paper tickets?
There are no tickets.
You
There's
just register online.
registration online. And they can make a copy of their receipt if they want a ticket, something in their hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't know you had more of those papers, so I copied them, and when I handed out when I went around to talk to people, the one lady saw the back of that and said, well, can I attend? I was like, well, of course, you know, so, yeah, so that's a really good thing. Thank you very much.
Also, we have the, you just click on on our main website, there's something for buying tickets, you just click here, click on buy tickets, and it's pretty easy.
I did it. Yeah, already did it. And that's all the announcements for this week. And George Snyder, would you please come up and introduce our speaker?
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning to our guests. As a preparatory school, Western Reserve Academy is in the business of preparing its students for college and for life. But Reserve also has broadened its mission recently to also prepare students for the digital future of work. To speak today about both curriculum enhancements and curriculum eliminations is the new Dean of Faculty, Matt Gerber. For the past 4 years, he has also served as Director of Information and Technology, and he designed and manages the Wang Technology Center. His courses have ranged from government and politics to video game design and editing, and from modern world history to digital fabrication and engineering. He currently is also teaching a personal fabrication course on Thursday evenings to 15 Hudson adults under a grant from the Burton D. Morgan Foundation. Mr. Gerber and I turned out to have a personal connection. He came to WRA from a teaching, coaching, and counseling position at Culver Academies in Culver, Indiana, which is where I graduated more than a few years ago. At Culver, he was elected the best teacher by the student body and earned an award from Indiana University for outstanding teaching about the U.S. Congress. In 2010, he received the Golden Apple Award for the most innovative use of classroom technology in central Indiana. At Reserve, he received the J. Ward and Marion Keener Award in 2013 and the Robert S. Weiss Memorial Award in 2015, both selected by the graduating senior class. In 2016, he was awarded the Cole Family Chair in Technology. Matt holds degrees from Indiana University and Wabash College and is also certified in applications of digital fabrication from the Fab Foundation. In his spare time, which is hard to believe, he enjoys reading and traveling. He lives in Hudson with his wife Cynthia and their 2 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me now in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Matt Gerber.
Well, thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with you. I have the utmost respect for the Rotary and Rotary International. Many of you may know John Huco, a graduate of Western Reserve Academy, is the president of Rotary International. I speak with him on many occasions. A very impressive man who really espouses the mission of Rotary. But I'm here to talk to you today about Western Reserve Academy and innovation, and I'm going to try to do this in 2 parts. One is just to talk about innovation, and then what it is we are doing at Western Reserve Academy, and then we can you can ask the questions that you want. And so, oops, there you go. So when we talk about innovation, you can see here, basically I'm talking about something different that has an impact. And you can see here our tagline, it's a little hard to see in the bottom, but it is Western Reserve Academy, what were you pioneer? And so we have this link to, and you can see James Ellsworth here at the bottom left, David Hudson, 2 pioneers of our town. I could think about, David Hudson, planting his flag here in 1799, thinking about what it would have looked like back then. And then James Ellsworth as well, 2 pioneering spirits. But when we think about, pioneering here, and we think about Western Reserve Academy, I've flown a lot recently as I've kind of gone back and forth around the United States. And one of the things I sit back is I'm in the air, in the plane, and I know many of you have flown, and all of a sudden, at some point in that flight, the engines kind of, you can hear it. It changes. And not too long after, the pilot will come on and say, get ready, or we're going to make our descent. And so when I think about innovation and the imperative for innovation and why we do things and we change, it is like being on that airplane. You're either going up, you're cruising, or the engines are starting to be cut and you're coming down. And the question is, how fast are you coming down? How soon till you land? And why it is you want to innovate. And schools are no different, as we're trying to prepare our graduates to be productive citizens, to live fulfilling lives. Why is it the world is changing? What they're being asked to do is changing. And how can we then innovate and create these opportunities? And it's much like being on this plane, but it's where you're at. If you think about your own businesses, your own lives, where is it that you're on this flight? And so when we think about these different factors and it's imperative to why we should change, and maybe the batters. Thank you. We can see that here's some of the trends. One is, look at this. Here are the costs and the percentage increase of prices for schooling and education. And when you look at these numbers, you can see that public colleges since 1981 to 2013 have gone up 732%. It's a steep, the change is pretty great. You can look at private colleges there, 487, and then NAIS, which is the National Association of Independent Schools, which Western Reserve Academy is a member of. So independent schools have only gone up 410%, and I say only. So it's quite a large percentage in change. So when we think about this, we think about what it is about our demographics. And so we start looking here at, here's Hudson, and here's Akron. What is our average incomes? And start thinking about what it is that we see. And you can see here on the figure on the right, the average median income is right around, this is the statistics to 2006-7 to 2017, the most recent ones. These are produced by NAIS as they're looking at tuition, but about $53,000, I think it says there. And then the average cost of an independent school tuition is about $24,500. And you can see this capacity to pay versus the cost of education today in the independent school world. And so you can see these imperatives to produce value-added education, to produce at a high level. And you can see here just our area here, so Akron's, the average incomes, household income versus family income, and there's a little bit of discrepancy there in how they actually calculate those numbers. So I put both of them in there, and those are the most recent numbers as of, I believe, August. And there's Hudson, you can see where we rank, Pepper Pike, and Solon, so kind of these different area communities that we have. And then another interesting site that I was looking at is this site that you might want to get on. It's called How Money Walks. And here's the IRS. And the IRS then looks at where does money move. So when we're looking at Ohio, you can see here on the map, you really want to be in a state in green. That's where the money is actually migrating to, according to your tax returns. And then you can see the inset there of Ohio. And you can see that we're in Summit County, which is dark red, which is not a good sign. Cuyahoga County is also in dark red, and you can see the counties there, Lucas, up by Toledo, in the northern part, Youngstown. There are two counties that are green. Medina is green, and then actually the rain is light green, so, which was interesting when I started looking at the numbers. But I look at this website to see where it is tax dollars are shifting within our demographics here within Ohio. So then if we kind of zoom in a little bit, you can see, so here's Ohio. Ohio lost $26 billion in income, and where is it moving to? You can see the states where it's moving to: Florida, North Carolina, Texas, South Carolina, Arizona. And you can see we're gaining wealth from New York, New Jersey, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And then if you move over to Summit County, we lost $1.48 billion, and you can see where those are moving within our state. Medina, then going to South Carolina, Stark and Lee, in Florida, but then where it's coming from, Cuyahoga, Lake, and so forth. And you can see that Cuyahoga lost $8.6 billion. So what it tells you about the demographics, the capacity to pay, and the imperative to innovate and provide this service within Ohio. And then I think about this, and one of the things I know a lot of you have been involved in business, or if not involved in business, I like to think about problems, and there's a gentleman from Harvard University who's one of the foremost writers about innovation and what it means to innovate for businesses. His name's Clayton Christensen. You may have heard about him. He's a striking figure. He's about 6'8", and he kind of, is one of the well thought of scholars at Harvard Business School. But he talks about the jobs to be done theory, and it's an interesting theory. So when you sit back and you think about your clients or customers and what they want, we've never lived in a time we'll have more data at our hands. I mean, they do metrics and analytics and algorithms on everything, but we have a tremendous amount of data. But what is it that actually the customers want? And so he has this great example about milkshakes. Anybody know when McDonald's sells the most milkshakes? 50% of their milkshakes are sold before this time period. Anybody know when it is?
Shamrock shakes.
They sell 50% of their milkshakes before 8:30 in the morning. And so McDonald's was perplexed. And McDonald's said, and trust me, McDonald's has all the data on everybody that walks into that store. But McDonald's could not figure out why they sold about 50% of their milkshakes by 8:30 in the morning. So they hired Mr. Christensen and his group to come out and to kind of figure this out for them. And they couldn't figure it out. And so they started to ask these questions, and they sat in the store, and they saw people coming in, and they got a milkshake, and they started talking to customers, and what they found out was people liked milkshakes not because of, the flavor and all that stuff, but they liked it because they would stop at McDonald's at 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, and grab a milkshake, and they would suck on it, and generally it would take them about 20 to 30 minutes to suck on it through the straw on their way to work. And it would fill them up, but it wouldn't be too heavy. It wouldn't be like a bagel where they'd eat it. And so they found out what the job to be done with the milkshake was actually to kind of pacify the customer, to satisfy them temporarily, to give them, this nice kind of viscosity drink that they could suck through a straw, and they would purchase these before 8:30 in the morning. But McDonald's could not figure out through their data. So the question is, what was the actual job to be done in terms of this milkshake? Well, it was to kind of satisfy this customer, and to give them this kind of this feeling of satisfaction. And so we think about these things, and this idea of jobs to be done. What is the job to be done? Like, what is it actually that is being performed here? And we look at Southern New Hampshire University. They are now an online school, and a very successful one. But what is the job that they're performing? It is that people no longer want to go to, and they don't have the time to go to college and sit in traditional classes, so they can provide this online service. The job to be done is for professionals who want to add an education, who are busy working, but don't have the time to actually sit through the classes. And so we start to see this idea of this jobs to be done theory, which goes and digs deeper than kind of what the data says. And so the question is then about disruption. Here's a great book called Dual Transformation. And it's written about how do you stay true to your core values. And trust me, Western Reserve Academy's been around since 1826. It's Western Reserve College and Academy. And how do you stay true to this history, but yet transform your institution to look forward? And so this book talks about this idea of disruption. And the question is, do you know what the largest taxi company in the United States is?
Uber.
Yeah, it's Uber. And how many taxi cabs do they own? None. So you can see this idea of disruption. All right? And you can see here's Uber. If you've ever taken Uber in a city, it's fast, it's efficient, and they've had some pickups here recently. But you can see that this is a new idea of not owning any cars, but yet being the largest taxi company. Excellent. And so we're starting to see this in education. Here's MicroMasters. You want to go to MIT? You can take an online class. You want to go to RIT and UPenn, some of these very well-known brand name schools, you get a MicroMasters. Meaning you take a couple classes, they'll credential you, you never step foot on their campus, and they're now trying to expand their reach using the internet. So we can see this. Next slide. You can see University of Arizona is doing micro campuses, where they're putting small little campuses all over the world to attract more students and to expand their reach. So it's another attempt at education. These are all higher education. And here's another big one, especially in my realm of IT. Would you rather go to 16-month or 12-month boot camp of coding and try to get out and get a well-paying job? or sit through 4 years of an undergraduate degree and rack up $200,000 plus worth of debt. This is the new challenge. And we're seeing colleges and universities adapt to that and now offering their own boot camps to try to capture these dollars, because ultimately most education universities are a business. So what are we doing at Western Reserve Academy? And we have transformed kind of our traditional curriculum in many ways. One of the ways, the first thing, is that we've canceled AP or advanced placement classes this year. We believe, and we call them now CL classes or college level classes, we believe that our teachers should not be kind of stuck to a curriculum that's written by somebody else. We believe that our teachers can do it better and more in depth. And so we then dropped our AP classes. I was an AP teacher. I taught AP Government, AP Comparative Government. I graded for the College Board. I graded the exams. I flew to different places and sit for 8 hours a day and grade the same essay question for 7 days. It was very fun. But after the 1,000th essay you read. But you know, we decided to cancel this program because we believe our teachers can do it better. We give them a much better depth and breadth instead of kind of a very quick pacing through the AP program. So this is our first year without the AP program. We've done some surveying and some data. Our students seem to really enjoy it. Our teachers actually really enjoy the freedom to create and design their own courses. And so one of those things is this. I don't know if you know this, but we have full cancer research going on at our school. Here's Dr. Aguilar. He runs the lab. We are doing right now testicular, esophageal, breast, and throat cancer research clinical trials. We have students who take pathobiology, so they are learning about that, and they're also then taking cancer research, and that research is tied in with Cleveland Clinic. So if you go up there in the afternoon at 3 o'clock, you'll see kids come in after school, pulling up their cancer research. They're working on a breast cancer vaccine. It was in clinical trials. So there's a lot, and this would never be possible in an AP biology class because you couldn't have the depth to then explore that. But what they're doing up there is absolutely amazing, that there's a full cancer research lab up there on the top floor. This is my realm here. You can see me there in the picture. I was fortunate enough to be able to design this and implement it, and I actually teach classes here. But this is our Wong Innovation Center, and we opened this 2 years ago. But the goal here is for students to make anything. And so when we mean anything, we mean anything. And so we have about 6,500 square feet of tools and facilities where students can realize their dreams. I'll head back here in a couple minutes, and I have kids coming in, and we're going to actually be working on artificial intelligence and machine learning. They're going to be setting up stuff. We're going to tie in and harness the power of the cloud to ask questions, to answer questions, do algorithms. And those are the advanced students. And I can tell you, some of our students, and most students, not just reserve, are very, very sharp and shrewd. And these kids are high achievers in what they're doing. And so, you know, but we also have kids in there that are just learning the basics. But the idea is to create everything. And so we have, you can see there's, you know, this is one of the rooms we have there. But this has drawn colleges from all over. We have college from Germany come to ask what we're doing, what we're doing for curriculum and stuff like that. And the other great thing is, as George mentioned, I get to teach 14 or 15 adults in the evening that are from Hudson. And it's great to see they're coming in there and they're learning, but most of them have entrepreneurial ideas. They want to use our plasma cutter to design a golf machine that can swing a golf club and drive it far. They have another idea, they're going to use 3D printers to prototype stuff to get venture capital. And so it goes on and on, the different hopes and dreams of people that can realize that here in Hudson. And these are just citizens around town that are interested in this stuff. And we had over 100 people, I think around 100 people apply to get into this program. And I had to pick 15 of those people. It was a tough decision, but we have 15 Hudson adults. But you can see here's the Hudson Innovates. This is the city's website. We're on this as well. We've done a lot of work with Jim Stifler and Paul Needham, and they've been wonderful as we kind of think about how we reach out. We don't just work here. We send kids to New York City to do internships, to China. We do a lot of stuff with local businesses, Hudson Community Foundation, stuff like that, all right here in Hudson, and gives our students authentic, real opportunities. They come alive when it's not as much coursework as is working for you and independent projects. Critical literacies, another component we've started this year is this idea of what is it that makes you successful? If you close your eyes and think back to the two most powerful teachers you've encountered in your life, who were they And why were they so impactful on you? I doubt you probably remember some lecture about the War of 1812, but you probably remember somebody who cared for you, who taught you how to be a better writer, a better thinker, a better communicator. You think about the skills that are necessary to survive and to be successful in the world. And so we have classes right now. Our freshmen take a half year of learning to make. They do that in the center. We teach them a half year of coding to introduce them to different computer languages. And you can see here is Jen Nagano, one of our teachers down there, teaching kids how to use Python and Java. We're going to roll out learning to speak and communicate, which will be writing and all forms of communication next year. And so we are kind of rolling this out year by year to provide our kids what we call the critical literacies. What does it mean to be literate, to be successful in the future? The next one is brain learning. I don't know if you know this, but there's been so much research done recently about brain learning and how we learn and how we remember things and how it sticks and how the brain puts information together. And so we're using this data and research to kind of construct our lessons, to talk with our teachers about the best ways to reach students. And this literature is fascinating. And we know that 10 or 12 minutes into my talk, you guys have cognitive overload, and you kind of start to forget things, and your brain needs a little break, and stuff like that. But we start to understand the way in which students work, our brains work, and it's very exciting, kind of the research that's out there today. We're also doing Beyond Reserve. We have some people right now, and I'm part of this, trying to get our students opportunities outside Western Reserve Academy, outside the walls. So we have kids doing research at the Baylor Medical Center. So they're there for 3 weeks. We have students doing genetic research at Case. I took students to the Nance, which is the highest of the high-end doorknob companies in the world. It's a gentleman from North Canton, Ohio, who started a company now down in Manhattan, which produces the most exquisite contemporary doorknobs and hinges. And when I mean that, it's impressive what they're doing. But our kids go there and design, and they actually manufacture stuff. Working with the opera, Cleveland Clinic's breast cancer, which is an extension of what we're doing in our classes. The Cleveland Indians, we had kids working there. Professional filmmaking company, record publishing, stuff like that. We have other opportunities as well. Saturday Academy. Western Reserve Academy has always taught classes on Saturday. We've several years ago changed this, where we have now different approaches to this. Here's a class that's taught in our center. I actually teach this class on aeronautical engineering. So we teach kids the principles of flight. And then we have them make their own planes and go fly them and test these theories about flight. So these are kids making their own planes, RC planes. We take them out back and fly them. I really say we actually take them out back and crash them because they realize how hard flying is. They stay up for about 10 to 20 seconds and they come down. But then we do quadcopters and drones and test multi-rotors and stuff like that. But this is one of the classes. We have other classes on urban design and urban planning, classes on restaurant touring, where they go and visit restaurants and learn how they work from the front to back. These are 6 class sessions for 2.5 hours on Saturdays, and they have to take 3 over the course of the year. But a whole host of varieties where teachers can teach their passion and make them interesting, and students get to choose them. And then we also changed our schedule. We were traditional 45-minute classes. This year we went to 75-minute classes. So it's a much more engaged class. We don't sit around and talk. There's not a lot of lecture. But our classes, we think, there are 4 classes a day of 75 minutes. It slows down the pace of the day. You don't go class to class to class to class 7 times. You have 4 classes. You then have a little bit less homework at night, so you can think more deeply about your subject. And it's, I think, better for student health. But we've changed that. It's been a great addition. Teachers can be much more engaged and in-depth in what they're trying to do and accomplish. And lastly, we have Compass, which is our project-based class, where students then get to spend a year working on their passion. And we have a girl who just developed an app. She wrote it over the summer. It takes math, and it helps kids who don't know math, and they can type it in, and it shows them how to solve math problems. It's on both the Apple and the Google store, and it's for free. And she just won a regional competition with Bert D. Morgan Foundation for one of the best startups. We have another student who developed a wireless phone charger for cell phones, to another student who designed their own dance and orchestrated their own dance performance, and it goes on and on. But kids get to decide what their own passion is. And what I really believe is this: agency, the ability for you to choose, is for students. will be really the partner in innovation in schools. Because you get passionate about what you get to do. If I have to tell you what you get to do, maybe not as much passion, but if I provide the structure, you get to do this. And it's basically about designing these meaningful ways to interact with students. And so these are just some of the things that are happening right now at Western Reserve Academy. We're very excited about it. And the way in which we are changing, the way we're doing things to prepare our students to be successful moving forward. So I thank you. If you have any questions about what we're doing, I'd happy to answer those. Yeah.
We try to hand out the microphone that's on the recording.
Oh, sure. This will be tough. This is from a reserve graduate, so I'm really going to get grilled now.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I'm just extremely proud to be a graduate of the Academy, especially hearing the amazing things that you're leading at the school. So thank you for continuing to do a great job. I, as an alumni, will continue to send a check because I think that's amazing. My one question is for the college level courses.
Sure.
Is there any, obviously you've thought of this, but what's the downside in terms of, actually that first year in school? And are any students upset that they're not gonna have those credits going forward? That was something that I really enjoyed, not having to take economics my first year of school because of AP Econ.
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the things about the AP program is a lot of colleges, or some colleges, do not guarantee you will even get credit for that. I know some do, and that's kind of your point. We've kind of grandfathered them in for 2 years. So anybody who's a junior right now can take a U.S. history course, and it's not an AP U.S. history course, but we will provide the additional support to get them ready for the AP exam, just so that we didn't just halfway through, promise them that we have AP courses and then switch over. So we're kind of phasing it out. But what we found is, through the analytics, is that a lot of kids aren't going to take the exam. And so they have the choice, but they're not going to take it. And so, that's part of it. We spent a lot of time talking to college guidance counselors about the AP programs. And what they tell you is, it's not about taking the AP test exactly per se. It's about taking the most rigorous classes that are offered. And that's what they're really looking for. And so, we were very thoughtful about that before we just dropped the AP program.
And hey, to that point, I gotta throw in a plug on that. So on a 7-point grading scale,
Yeah.
I received, I think, a 3.5 on my, report card for AP Econ, and I got a 4 or whatever, the highest.
Right.
I got like the highest score on the
5.
AP exam.
Yep.
So.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Chris, this is not a question you're going to be easy to answer, but
Sure.
you're familiar with the traditional way of teaching. You're not
Absolutely.
familiar very much with what you're doing here. Put yourself in the mind of a student going through it. How are they absorbing your new method as compared to the way they did it when I grew up? We're talking about entirely different ways of learning.
Yeah.
How are they reacting to that? Is that something you can answer, or is that pretty much off the...
Yeah, I think the, when you think about teachers and going into the profession, there's a lot of modeling. So teachers teach the way that they were taught, and so that a lot of it was passive sitting. So there was somebody very knowledgeable in the room. They transmitted it some way to you. You wrote it down, remembered it, and in some way spewed it back, regurgitated it back on a test. But what really truly is, how do we measure learning? And so, the new way is about constructing knowledge as opposed to regurgitating knowledge. The new way is about, collaborative approaches versus this kind of singular. Now we still do both. And I think that the students have taken to it, quite well in terms of the changes. I think it's tougher that, if you walked into a school, my guess is you're going to think of schooling like you had it. And it's going to look very different than maybe what is the student going to need to be successful in the workforce? What does it mean to be successful in your careers? Like, what is it that you actually took from your schooling and applied to your job and your profession going forward? And I think that's kind of with new brain literature about what it is for what it means for memory, how learning happens. I think that's shed lights on a lot of different ways. We know that just standing up here and lecturing is not an effective method. It's not bad, but it needs to be done maybe in shorter bursts and stuff like that. I remember, myself going to college and I had a 90-minute lecture. How much do I remember that? not a lot. What I do remember is stuff I did, performances I gave, projects I had to create, maybe plays I was in, stuff like that. I actually remember a lot of that stuff from my own education experience. Well, why is that? And so these are kind of the pieces that we try to work towards.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You know, that last question you asked, I have and I know it's not the academy, but I have a granddaughter who's in kindergarten. And I was just telling George about it this morning. She's in kindergarten, and they're doing project-based learning. So they did a project, and it's actually going to have a tangible project, but in it they learned writing, they learned English, they learned a map. They're creating a map to give every new kid that comes to Hudson to show them where the best place, what restaurant to eat for a kindergartner, where's the best place to go play. I mean, they actually did this project, but they're actually going to have a tangible product, and they show graphs, they show charts. I was amazed. So they are learning differently instead of just that. It's amazing. So this morning I want to wrap up by a special thank you to our greeters. I think, Ralph, you've been there by yourself the last couple of weeks, haven't you? Okay, thank you very much. Ralph Day, audiovisual crew, Dan Rich, Tom Tobin, James Field, Ron Barnhouse. Thank you guys for all the hard work you guys tear down and set up. We appreciate it very much. And our Rotabuck today is $13 and $245 for the jackpot.
Good luck, Joe. See how it works out. There you are.
5710.
Oh, come on. Missed it by about 5. Oh, Jim.
Up, Jim had me.
I let him go.
We have a little time if anybody has any more announcements or anything they want to talk about. That's your. Oh, no, you have to give me the picture. He doesn't trust me. Right there. Oh.
That's what he is.
I'm not going to. I've only done that once. I hope everyone has a beautiful and wonderful Easter day, and I thank you for coming. If there's no other comments, have a good day.
All right.